In season 1 of Arcane, Caitlyn was a child of a noble and powerful family in Piltover. Instead of focus on this life, she decided to seek her own path, becoming an enforcer, trying to find purpose in her life through seeking justice and making meaningful change into the world. The character is pretty much filled with tropes and classic cliches of being a sheltered child, acting rebellious in her own way, a cop that goes by the rule, and a naive rich girl. I could go on, but you get the point. However, one thing Arcane used to be great at, utilizing tropes. Despite Caitlyn being made a backseat for Vi, acting more of a support role, which makes sense, because she doesn't know the streets of Zon as well, and you don't expect her to be throwing hands. She is not exactly built to fight, using her rifle when she's in combat. It would be really stupid to decide she learns how to randomly fight. Arcane fully explores the character in trying to find an identity after being sheltered for so long. Her interaction with Grayson planted a seed to seek an identity, and purpose made her become an enforcer. Her naivety in the world caused her to be willing to seek and help those from different classes. Combining the two makes sense why she's willing to go through and investigate the incidents that occurred being the docks, Jinx explosion, and the depth of the arcane orb. Willing to receive help regardless who they are, but as long they're on the same boat. What I also find the character interesting is that despite how dangerous it is, causing her to be injured numerous times, she doesn't give up. She is willing to go through with it despite being physically weak. As for League of Legends lore, it's pretty much similar where she grew up with a wealthy trade family, where it's stated she learned her morals from her parents and is willing to learn more from them. Eventually, it goes a bit different here, where one day Kay found her parents' house ransacked and her parents missing, so she decides to go find them herself. She used her skills in hunting from the wilderness and trying to find the people that kidnapped them in the city. Eventually, through sheer determination, managed to find them all tortured but alive. The mother, who was currently the head of the house, decided to retire, leaving the spot open and vacant. While Caitlyn, as much as she liked her parents, enjoyed being a detective, so she focused on this life trying to find the head honcho, who orchestrated the kidnappers. Eventually, the wardens found her impressive and decided to have her join their ranks. The lore is not good, it's full of holes. For instance, Caitlyn seems a bit too good in navigating the city, able to do it all by herself in finding her parents. The household chair left open because the mom, I guess, was traumatized, and apparently the dad can't take the seat for some reason. It lacks quite a lot of depth and explains why Caitlyn decided to be a private detective, rather than taking the seat for her family. I don't blame it too much, it's more of an overview who is this character and why did she became a cop. I don't blame it too much, this is more of an overview who is this character and why did she became a cop. Arcane utilized her lore and fully fleshed it out, giving some depth, but one thing is clear is where the direction of the character was going to be heading. Towards the end of this season, she sees Jinx firing a rocket at the council room where her mom was involved. We could easily infer she will die. That sets up a clear conflict for Caitlyn moving forward. She will likely struggle between hunting down her mother's killer and dealing with the pressure of taking her family's seat on the council. On top of that, with Silco dead, Zon is going to be in chaos, which will spill over into Piltover and put the city's safety at risk. So her story is most likely going to focus on a choice. Does she fight for her city or does she focus on her family? Either way, she's going to be pulled in different directions, and it'll be interesting to see how Arcane handles that. As you can infer from the title of the video, they do not continue the story they were setting up. They completely fail this character. So, let's get started. It starts off pretty strong with her going through the emotions of her mother's death, trying to act strong but feeling deep pain inside her, which is revealed when she hugs Vi in private, showing her emotions. The problem with Kate's character begins to reveal to us as hints, warning us that this isn't going to be the Kate that we once knew from the first season. When Vi tells Caitlyn that she'll ask Jace to fix the gauntlets so they can stop Jinx, Caitlyn shuts her down, saying, "But what? Did she get hit in the head? Because her arrogance didn't get her mother killed. Jinx did. Jinx kidnapped her, accidentally killed her own father, and fired a rocket at the council. How does any of this tie back to Caitlyn being arrogant? If anything, her rogue mission was an attempt to prevent this exact scenario. Silco wanted to hex score as a bargaining chip to threaten Piltover, and Jinx, being a crazed maniac, stole it back and used the weapon. Caitlyn's reaction should be frustrated she wasn't able to stop it, not some weird self-pity arc that doesn't add up. And then there's the next part. She suddenly decides to go with the Enforcers. Since when? Last we saw, she was removed from the Enforcers because of her family's influence. That's why she went on the rogue mission in the first place. She wanted to help, but she wasn't part of the Enforcers anymore. So at what point during her grief did she re-enlist? That seems like a pretty big moment. Caitlyn decided whether to go after Jinx or stay with her family and take on the responsibilities of House Kierman. But nope, we skip over all of that so we get to this scene where she hands Vi a badge and asks her to join with the Enforcers. This is an absolutely awful thing Kate will do. She knows the history of Vi's parents being killed by Enforcers, that Vi has every reason to hate them. Handing her a badge like some kind of honor is incredibly inconsiderate and completely out of character for Caitlyn. It makes even less sense that she gets upset that Vi refuses to wear it, as if somehow it means she's not helping. Why does Vi need to wear the badge for Caitlyn to feel like she's on their side? Vi's already assisted the Enforcers before, working alongside Caitlyn and Jace without officially being one. There was no need to force this weird moment where Caitlyn expects her to join up formally. Like what? She's the one who caused the divide being inconsiderate in the first place. This whole exchange has completely undermines their relationship. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like the writers are forcing unnecessary drama between the two. It's frustrating that the writers are trying to make Caitlyn come across as considerate when it completely contradicts her character. A good example of this is when Maddie finds Vi drinking after being reminded of a traumatic event and tells her that Caitlyn fought to get the badge for her. Supposedly, if Vi had been denied, Kate would have threatened to cut off their family funding. This does not make sense. Caitlyn would never have done this. She wouldn't have even considered enlisting Vi, let alone using her family's name as leverage. The entire point of Caitlyn's arc in Season 1 was to separate herself from her family and prove herself without relying on her status. She always wanted to be seen as just another officer, not someone who used her privilege to get ahead. A great example of this when she assumed Grayson let her win in a shooting competition, not because of her skill, but because of her family had history of bribery to make her look good. The idea that she would suddenly pull strings and threaten to cut off funding completely contradicts everything her character stood for. In just 2 scenes in the first episode, the writers completely undermined both her relationship with Vi, making her come across inconsiderate, and her personal journey of self-discovery. It's truly impressive to be able to accomplish this. We're barely in the beginning in the first arc, already her character is as dead as her mother. The final nail in the coffin comes after the attack during the memorial. Caitlyn, now consumed by anger, immediately blames the Zonites and starts preparing for an assault on Zon, even willing to use chemical weapons and hex-tech technology. This is something every major character, including herself, will be against. She went from caring about Zon's people to suddenly being big mad and out for blood. If this were Caitlyn from the Season 1, she wouldn't have jumped straight to violence. She would have been curious about the attack, investigating what really happened rather than reacting emotionally. Jace could have pointed out that this was likely an act of vengeance by a grieving mother, not an organized strike from Zon. And also the fact that they had a chance to kill Mel but didn't. Given her past experience in markets and how she already uncovered corruption within the Enforcers, she would have been suspicious of an internal conspiracy rather than blindly calling for war. In League of Legends lore, Caitlyn is all about exposing corruption and uncovering the truth, but here, she's reduced to an impulsive, reactionary character who abandons her core beliefs the moment things gets personal. It's a complete betrayal of who she was meant to be, made more confusing for the decision at the end of Act 1, but we'll get there later. Now she's begin using her family resources and begin to infiltrate Zon. To me, this arc, if you can call it, is difficult to care about for how poorly structured for the events to even happen. What they're doing is something that a single one of them will ever do, and this entire arc of hunting down the Chem Barons is summarized in a music video. They just skipped over the journey so they can arrive at the destination as quickly as possible, so they can rush to the fight against Jinx. At that point, why bother making a show since the focus of a good television show is seeing the journey and struggle of the character, appreciating the moment when they arrive at the end of the journey. To be fair, this is a criticism for the whole entire show, this moment being one of many examples. The aftermath of the confrontation with Jinx highlights a major issue with Vi's character, her hesitation and dumb decision making. Despite telling Caitlyn to take the shot, Vi ultimately stops her out of fear she might miss, even though Caitlyn is supposed to be one of the best snipers in the setting. From that distance, there's no real chance of missing, especially given how exposed Jinx's head was. Vi's hesitation not only cost him the opportunity to stop Jinx, but also allowed her to escape in a completely contrived way. This in turn led to Caitlyn giving up the chase and leaving Vi behind, one of the few moments where Caitlyn's frustration actually feels justified. I'll dive deeper to how they ruined Vi's character in a future video since, damn, they truly destroy that character, but for now, let's focus on Caitlyn. The real turning point for Caitlyn's character comes when Ambessa, a a foreign ambassador takes over Piltover's government, with the council mysteriously disappearing. This power grab is incredibly convenient, yet Caitlyn, who should be highly suspicious, barely questions it. Instead of resisting or seeking answers, she simply accepts Ambessa's offer to serve as a commander under her rule. This moment completely shatters Caitlyn's character and storyline. From season 1 and her established lore, Caitlyn is someone who never allowed this to happen. Caitlyn is someone who never allows something like this to happen. She will oppose Ambessa's rule, not just for herself, but for Piltover as a whole. Her entire arc was seemingly building up towards a difficult choice between her duty to her family and her responsibility to the city. The decision is rushed, happening in a moment of rage, making it feel unsatisfying. What makes it even worse, it isn't even truly her decision. Ambessa essentially makes it for her. These two characters never interacted, nor will they ever have any reason to care about each other, yet suddenly, Caitlyn's taking orders from her. This moment feels like a final nail in the coffin for Caitlyn's character. Not only is her personal struggle sidelined, but she is stripped of her agency, making her story feel rushed and unearned. After this arc, they tell a completely different character who is surprisingly horribly more written than the Caitlyn we once knew. They begin the second act with an exposition dump between Caitlyn and Maddie, since they had to, because the writers decided to skip over years of storytelling that was important to see. Like I said, they care more about the destination than the journey. This destination being Caitlyn was made leader of Piltover. She has complete control over the city. To give an idea how much power she has, she's able to make big boy decisions like being able to re-establish the council. It would have been interesting to see the council giving up their power to one person, essentially making the city rule under a dictatorship. But remember, destination over journey. It's one thing they're rating her to be a leader, but it's a whole other issue being a terrible one. Piltover is under martial law, causing suffering in Zon. Caitlyn has the power to end it, refuses to do so unless Jinx is captured. This shows that Caitlyn only values her personal vendetta over the well-being of other people, which is inconsistent being once a caring person. However, this is never consistent towards the end, where she's willing to let Jinx go, but again, we'll talk about that later in a bit. You believe someone this important would expect Caitlyn's scenes to focus on navigating the complexities of politics and leadership. Instead, we see her engaging in activities that don't align with her role. She's out investigating, training with Ambessa, conducting interrogations, and even doing guard duty. In what reality will you ever write a leader doing guard duty? Remember how Jay struggled to balance his council duties and being an inventor, with real consequences, such as not being able to stop Victor from going too far in the deep end. In contrast, Caitlyn has no such struggles. She does whatever the plot demands her to do without any of the same challenges or repercussions. That's the biggest thing that destroys her character, is the fact that she's written to align whatever is convenient for the plot, siding with Ambessa, till eventually the writers have Caitlyn be on guard duty so she can confront Vi and join her side. Remember how Caitlyn's motivation was centered around killing Jinx and putting her in prison for the actions she caused. This ambition of hers created a rift with Vi, causing them to be separated. In Act 3, Vi tells Caitlyn it was wrong for her to imprison Jinx and needed to trust her because she has changed. This is the same thing with the badge scene, but reverse here. Like, can someone remind me again, how are they a couple? Caitlyn allows her to escape by removing the guards leading the way out of the building. After she gets away from Vi for the 30th time, the both of them begin having sex while Jinx went off to commit suicide. I'm not joking. An actual human being decided to write this, and someone else thought this was acceptable. One thing I wanted to talk about before I wrap up this video is the fight between Kate and Ambessa being an absolutely embarrassing and dumbest thing a human being will ever write. Now let me explain why that's the case. Kate and Mel are gonna fight against Ambessa, surrounded by soldiers. Keep in mind, Caitlyn is injured with a gut wound. There's just no way she can fight against Ambessa regardless of training. Even using an excuse saying, well, it's based from a game, won't work either for this fight to go this way. Since Ambessa is a nightmare against characters like Caitlyn, she has movements and abilities that completely crush ADCs, whose entire playstyle revolves around keeping their distance and taking down enemies from range. The moment a fighter like Ambessa closes the gap, it's over. You'd think they'll try at the very least resemble each other in the game, both of them trying to distance themselves from Ambessa, locking her down and trying their best to take her out from range. Instead, the fight ends up being a brawl, with Caitlyn losing an eye. Even if they somehow manage to win, they're still surrounded by Mbesa's soldiers, who seek vengeance over their fallen general. This fight satisfies nobody. It makes no sense from a narrative perspective, character perspective, or even the context from the game. Pretty much Kate has her little happy ending, flying an airship with Vi, smiling about Jinx being out there free and alive, not even showing any acknowledgement of her foster brother being dead. Season 2 of Arcane completely killed this character, ruining her entire arc that was being set up both from the lore and Season 1, by rushing it and telling a whole new story for this character that doesn't fit. Being the leader Pilter, which was never set up, doesn't align her as a character, and even this was screwed up. Her characteristic is just obliterated from orbit, being an angry and cruel person, contrast to once being caring and kind, regardless of class or person. Motivation being whatever aligns with other characters, removing her agency. It's depressing to see how much effort and care went into writing Caitlyn's character in the first season, only for this to be the follow-up, being some type of weird fanfiction. So thanks for watching, and bye.